Hello and welcome to the Devonport Camera Club's second Projected Images competition for 2025. This competition was judged by Ralph Brown, and the club thanks him for his informative insights and helpful comments. For this competition, 36 colour and 19 monochrome images were received. Blue Door by Leanne Cowan. The title of this image makes the subject the blue door, and although it is prominent, there are a lot of competing elements to draw the viewer away from it. The vibrant colours of the flowers are great, but a simpler composition that removed the gates on the right and some of the laundry trough on the left would make the pots and flowers to the right of the door more prominent. Breakfast for Cocky by Darryl Starkey. Black cockatoos are not that easy to capture, and I commend the maker for this image. The head and eye of the bird are sharp, but there are some issues with the post-processing. It looks like the background has been selected and darkened, as there are some spots that have been missed. I would suggest cropping from the right to move the bird to the right third of the image. Calm Among the Chaos by Jenny King. It is an easily recognisable church in Brisbane that sits amongst the skyscrapers, with the brickworks and the white roofs making a stunning image. The angle that this has been taken from could possibly be improved by a couple of steps to the left, to look up the footpath. It would move the post from in front of the building and give you leading lines down the bollards. Chambers Gorge by Anne Starkey. The colours in this image are quite stunning and perhaps a little oversaturated, but in the Flinders Ranges these are probably the realistic colours. In a wide open scene like this, I think a panoramic format works really well, as I feel this scene is a little cramped. I'm looking for more on the left and the right to give us a wider view of the open spaces of South Australia. Fries with That by David Hunter. I can understand the interest in the colours and textures of the rock formation and the context that it is a hamburger, but I don't think it has much impact as some of the other images. Maybe more of the environment around the rock may make a stronger image. Nell Gwyn, Old and New by Rod Hamilton. From the title, I was trying to work out the meaning until I noticed the communication tower in amongst the trees. The primary subject is the tower, which I'm assuming is for some mining operation, but the graffiti in the foreground is a distraction. A different composition, with the two towers more prominent, may be a stronger image. Ready by Julie Phillips. I am guessing this is a grab shot, taken as you are playing with the dog. The head and the eyes are sharp, but all the background noise is distracting, drawing the viewer away from the subject. The crop is very close to the bottom border, clipping the toe of the dog. Red Peony Rosebud by Leanne Cowan. Rosebuds are a great subject, with vibrant colours and wonderful textures in the petals. The focus is what has let us down in this image, as it is soft and may have been under the minimal focal length for this lens. The lighting is also a little flat, and some adjustments in contrast and exposure may give it more dynamics. River Meets the Sea by Gil Hayes. I'm guessing Hill Inlet in the Whitsundays, and a good aerial shot of this iconic location. A wider shot may have given us more to the right of the shot, and some work with clarity and contrast would strengthen the results. School's Out by Jenny King. The maker has used the panoramic aspect of this image to give us the connection with the full crossing. A wider shot may have given us a little more to the left and right, and perhaps less at the bottom, to remove some of the blurred roadway. A slight lightening of the shadows and blacks may have brought out more detail in the blocked out areas. Sunday Morning Trot by Darryl Starkey. I think this is a good capture of the horse and buggy out for a trot. The main subject is very central in the image, so I recommend a change in composition. There are also some editing issues where the selection missing a couple of areas around the rider and under the buggy and wheels. An action shot with them coming through the water might be worth considering if the opportunity comes again. Tessellated Pavement by David Hunter. This area is a favourite for photographers, with the patterns and textures in the rocks. The colours of the rocks and the vibrance of the seagrass gives the image impact. The lighting in this image is a little flat, and a boost in contrast and clarity may have lifted it. There appears to be dust spots in the sky, which is also easily fixed in post-processing. Turbulence by David Bluedorn. A brave shot, and I commend the maker for trying something different. You have got in close and brought a mixture of motion blur and sharp capture into the image. Unfortunately, there is nothing sharp in the image, and in this case I think we need it. Look out for bright spots on the edges of the frame, as these lead the viewer out of the image. Washing Day by David Bluedorn. The title is Washing Day, so I am looking for the washing to be the hero in the image. There is good colour and texture in the image, but too many distractions. The power box and the numbers on the pole draw us away from the subject. I suggest a tighter crop into a portrait aspect to include the washing, and the iron roof would make a stronger image. Water Feature by Stephen Matthews. I'm guessing this is in a park or some display with the floodlit foliage in the background. It may be an optical illusion, but the water does not appear to be falling straight, but I may be mistaken. The waterfall and the bright area at the top dominate the scene, and I suggest simplifying the composition into a square to remove some of the areas to the right that are not adding much to the image. Adorable by Julie Phillips. This is a beautifully produced portrait of the child with the remnants of lunch on his lips. The eyes are sharply in focus and well exposed. A little more space around the head may be a stronger image, and a larger aperture would have given more of the image in focus. Alpine Summer by Anne MacDonald. A stunning landscape with leading lines from the creek takes the viewer through the image. The contrast looks a little harsh, and I think reducing it would soften the feel of the image. I suggest backing off the warm tones a little to give the image a more tranquil feel. Bruni Sunset by Baden Smith. The rich golds of the sun and clouds reflected across the water gives this image appeal and impact. The composition is strong, with the point of interest off-centre. A smaller aperture may have given us more definition in the sun's rays, and a boost of the darks would have brought out more detail in the water and clouds. Caladinia clavigeira, Clubbed Spider Orchid by Judy Dawkins. I really enjoyed the colours of these flowers, and exposure and saturation have been well handled. I would have considered removing the spider's web between the two flowers, and I don't think the area to the bottom is adding much to the image. A slight crop from the right would make a more balanced composition. Dancing in Colour by Margaret Soblewski. These light painting images are a dazzle of colour and textures. With these types of images, I look for a dominant area that draws the eye and provides a place to rest. This image feels too busy to give that, and a change in composition may be stronger. Mary Valley Rattler by Bob Goodwin. The exposure and contrast have been well handled in this image to give us detail in all areas. A slight change in composition may have improved the results with a step to the right, eliminating the structure in the left corner and give us more space between the man and the left border. It would also remove the fence from the right side. Purankani Falls by Anne Starkey. A beautiful waterfall with good use of a slower shutter speed to add motion blur in the water. A smaller aperture may have sharpened the image through to the background, and perhaps some noise reduction to clean up some of the shadows. Star Trail Tree by Stephen Matthews. The maker has done well to get the full circle around the astronomical pole and retain good detail in the stars. The focus may have been a little off on the tree as it appears a bit soft. The light painting was perhaps a little long, making the tree and the green foreground brighter than we needed. That Tree by Brad Stagg. An iconic tree that appears regularly in competition images. When something is so recognisable, it has to be very unique to do well. The timing of this shot has missed the sun on the tree, which draws the viewer to the brighter foliage on the left bank. In this shot, I suggest removing some off the right and the sky to move the tree off dead centre of the frame. The Roulettes by Tony Soblewski. A good shot of the aircraft doing their formation flying. The maker has done well getting the plane sharp, but I would have preferred to see some motion blur in the propellers to give you some sense of movement. A touch more saturation in the reds may have lifted the image. To Be Different by Margaret Soblewski. A very nice shot of the tulips, and the vibrant colours give the image impact. The odd one adds further interest, and I suggest making it more the hero of the shot by coming in tighter on that flower. I'm not sure the soil is adding much to the image, and I would consider removing it from the frame. Giraffe at Sunset by Mike Jones. This is a stunning image of the giraffe silhouetted in the setting sun, with the rich colours in the sky adding impact. A boost in the shadows may give us more detail in the darks, particularly in the animal. I'm not sure the background has been selected and darkened, but there appears to be some fringing halos around the tops of the trees. If you are doing this sort of editing, be careful with your selection. Here to Stay by Anne MacDonald. I love the texture in the moving water with carefully selected shutter speed to give us motion while retaining detail. The rocks are sharp and the colours in the moss are vibrant, giving the image an impact. A slightly wider view with more of the downstream may have elevated this to the next level. Old Railway Bridge by Rob Dawkins. Good leading lines and patterns in this image take the viewer into the distance. The reflection in the water adds further interest, and the only thing that held it back was some haloing around the tops of the trees that may have been introduced during editing. Out of the Dark by Brad Stagg. The exposure is good in this image, which leaves the bird with good lighting and details in the feathers. I don't mind the dark background, but I may have lightened it a little if it was my shot. There is perhaps a little too much area around the subject, but I don't mind it as it is. Riding the Tube by Bob Goodwin. A great action shot of the surfer with good exposure, giving us detail in the shadows and on the face of the board rider. I suggest a slight boost in clarity or contrast, particularly in the water, would have taken it to the next level. Southern Emu Wren by Rob Dawkins. A spectacular capture of this pretty bird with great detail in the feathers and around the eye. The only thing that kept it from a higher score was the dominance of the bright green foliage at the bottom. As this is an open subject, some selective saturation in this area or cropping up from the bottom may have elevated it to the next award. The Blue Hour by Tony Sablewski. I enjoyed the image because of the time of day and the small aperture giving us starbursts on the lights. The composition is good and the lights well placed in the frame. My only recommendation is to tone down the really bright spots on the water, as they tend to draw the viewer away from the subject. Old House Creek Falls No. 2 by Gil Hayes. Not a lot I can say about this image other than wow. It is just beautiful, well composed with excellent shutter speed, exposure and contrast. An exceptional image. Skull Rock Falls by Judy Dawkins. Another beautiful forest waterfall scene with good colour reproduction and good shutter speed selection. Not much more I can say about this. A gorgeous image. Yellow Emperor Dragonfly by Mike Jones. Spectacular capture of the dragonfly in flight. Perfectly sharp on the head and eye, with just enough drop-off to focus on the wings and tail to give the image depth. The placement of the frame is perfect. Well done. Chester Mine Hut by Judy Dawkins. The old abandoned hut is a good subject and has been well captured. The depth of field is a little flat, and a larger aperture may have given the image greater depth. The image appears to tilt down on the left, but it may be an optical illusion. Little Bo Peep by Jenny King. A tight crop of the image leads us through the fences into the turn at the end. The back of a person is not always the best angle, and having her walking toward the camera may have been a better option. The blurred edges are a little too dominant, and I suggest coming in a little on the left and right. Neglected by David Hunter. A good subject for mono, as I imagine there would not be much colour in the original. The lighting seems very flat, and I recommend boosting the contrast and clarity to bring a full tonal range into the image. Storm Brewing by Rob Dawkins. This is a beautiful scene, but there seems to be some issues with the editing. There is a halo above the trees, and the clouds look like they have been over-sharpened, giving them an unnatural appearance. I suggest going back to the original and try some different editing techniques. The shot has the potential for a stronger result. The Bridge No. 2 by Margaret Sableski. I applaud the maker for trying something different with this image inversion. Unfortunately, I'm not sure it has worked, in my opinion. The effects have perhaps been a bit overdone, resulting in too much contrast and bright areas in the image. Don't give up experimenting. I love to see it. Timber Patterns by Gil Hayes. This image is all about the textures and patterns in the wood. While I like what I see, a slight change in the angle to bring greater symmetry may have had better results. A boost in contrast and clarity may also strengthen the image. The addition of another element, like a leaf or a rock, would provide a greater point of interest. Window Shadows by Baden Smith. This image is all about light and shade, with the bright sunlight creating shadows on the structure. This is an image that I would push a lot further and really boost the contrast to make it pure black and white. I think the patterns are there to make it stunning with a little more creative treatment. Dunedin Station by Darryl Starkey. The treatment of the image has given it an old-style appearance. The white vignette may be a little overdone, but it does add to the presentation. The man in his high-vis clothes is contradictory to the old style, and I recommend cloning him out. The scaffolding is also a distraction and could also be removed. Evening Tree by Stephen Matthews. This is a lovely scene of the tree at the waterfront, and the night shot gives the image greater appeal. The brightest part of the image always stands out, and in this case it is the rock wall. Some selective dodging and burning to lighten the tree and darken the wall may have been a stronger image. Giant White Delphinium by Leanne Cowan. A beautiful floral image with the water droplet on the petals. A light increase in exposure may have added some impact. In a situation like this, I recommend using a black screen behind the flowers to remove any of the distracting elements in the background. Hungry Rabbit by Julie Phillips. I'm not sure if this is a pet or a pest eating the plants in the garden, but it has been well captured with good detail in the face and the eye. A view from a slightly higher angle may have removed some of the bottom concrete edge, and I would consider cloning the fence out of the background to remove the distraction. Port Chalmers, New Zealand Bank, 1880, by Anne Starkey. A beautiful old building that has been well preserved. It may be an illusion, but it appears to tilt down on the left, and I suggest correcting the angle to get the centre verticals straight. The cars to the left appeared to be stretched, and that may be corrected with aspect adjustment. Campfire Glow 2 by Brad Stagg. A good shot of the guys sharing a drink around the campfire. The monoconversion has been well managed with good lighting and contrast on the main subject. Some selective dodging may have brought out more detail in the two at the back. There are a couple of lighter areas about the man's head and on the left border that I would have eliminated. Flowing Beard by Baden Smith. This is a great portrait, and what an impressive beard! This is another instance where dodging and burning to darken the beard and lighten the face may have rendered a stronger result. Morning Mist by Bob Goodwin. This is a gorgeous scene, and the misty sky fills the negative space beautifully. The only suggestion I can offer for improvement is to remove the bright spot where the light is reflecting off the water, and maybe a little of the blocked out dark area in the bottom left. Rebecca by Anne MacDonald. A windy day on a sailing boat, and the young girl is trying to keep her hair out of her face. She really looked like she was having a great time. Some slight dodging to lighten her face may improve the image, and perhaps a little more contrast. Only minor changes would take the image to the next level. Rowan Skeletons by David Bluedorn. I enjoyed the serenity of this scene, and it suits the monoconversion. While I really liked the way it was presented, a little more of the scene to the top and bottom may have been stronger. Ceduna Pier at Sunset by Mike Jones. A beautiful image of the sunset silhouetting the pier and the sun's rays in the sky add further interest. There is enough detail in the sky to add mood. The rocks in the foreground are a little bright, but I think it adds to the image and leads you into the scene. Spiral Stairwell by Tony Sobleski. The symmetry, textures and patterns of this image are what gives the image impact. While I may have been tempted to take the shot from dead centre, the way it has been presented is almost a perfect Fibonacci spiral. Well done. Ralph is the current president of the Photographic Society of Queensland and an accredited judge. His main objective as a judge is to share his passion for photography by encouraging emerging photographers. He has judged many national and international competitions, including the Queensland International Digital Circuit. He received international and national honours from competitions in Europe, the USA, Asia and other parts of the world. Ralph has been a member of the Australian Photographic Society for many years. Photography is a passion for Ralph, and he sees the camera as an extension of the human senses, to light, touch and the emotion of capturing the memories of life to be preserved. Most of all, Ralph enjoys capturing the beauty of this world, the dynamic action of life, and the stunning colours of nature, be it a beautiful flower or an amazing bird or an animal. He also loves photographing people and the character and emotion portrayed on faces, such as the joy of a wedding ceremony, studio portraiture, family gatherings, or just the candid shot of people in the street.